Here on the Buy to Let show, we've been looking at the legal health and safety aspects when it comes to letting your property. Joining me now to discuss that further are Tim Bishop from Bonallack Bishop Solicitors, Christina Dimitrov from Direct Line and John Stewart from the Residential Landlord Association. So, from your perspective, Tim, to you first, you're the legal man on our panel. What questions do you think landlords need to be asking their legal company when they are buying a property to let?
I think the first one is a very simple one. If you've already got your mortgage sorted out, you need to make sure that your chosen solicitor is actually on the panel, because otherwise that's going to create a problem.
Right, OK. So what does that actually mean? So the lenders will have a panel, will have a set number of solicitors that you can deal with?
And most medium-sized firms will be on most, but particularly some of the one-man bands and the smaller ones often aren't. And that can create problems, sometimes needing two solicitors and greater expense and delay.
The other question is, I guess, is to all of you really, what can landlords do to try and stop themselves from being on the wrong side of the law? John, perhaps you can help us with that.
Well, there's so much legislation out there governing letting properties and the private rented sector. We seem to get a new set of laws every month from the government.
It is a little relentless, is it not?
So it's really important that landlords do keep themselves up to date with legislation. You know, you can read up about things online. You can join an association like the Residential Landlord Association, who will send out regular updates to members, keeping abreast of what's going on. There's documents and guides available. So I really do think if you're self-managing, definitely join an association, have the backup of an advice team and support there. And if you're using an agent, just make sure that your agent is also a member of a recognised body like Arla or NALS.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important, because a lot of people think letting agents are regulated and they're not, of course. So that's an important point. And from your perspective, Christina?
I mean, one thing I can say is you can start quite simply as well. So if you look at Direct Line for Business, even us as an insurer, we've got something that is a bit like a blog, a knowledge centre. It's got a lot of legislative updates with predictions, what that means for you. Whenever there is some sort of news items, we do tend to update the blog and think about concerns that our customers may have, or prospective customers. So you can even start with companies that are related to landlord matters and landlord questions. That could be a good starting point.
What do you think are the most common mistakes? So, Christina, what do you think is the biggest mistake that landlords are making on a regular basis they need to know about now?
So the one thing for us is maintenance costs, or costs of certain breakdowns that are maintenance related. So a landlord gets a rental income, gets really excited, oh, that's all the money and I can use it for whatever I like. It's not quite that simple. You need to put money aside every single month. And the best way to think about it is, think of a new boiler, £3,000. That can be up to a year's net income. Depending upon where you rent, you could think of various kitchen items that may need replacement, certain bathroom elements, and we think there's a good way of doing that by simply writing down all these things into like a spreadsheet.
A bit like a maintenance schedule, something along those lines?
Yeah, it's a bit like a schedule, exactly. Thinking about also the frequency at which they need to get done and what they cost. So when I say frequency, I'm thinking about maintenance costs for all the properties. So once your property is 15 to 20 years old, you may have to start thinking of replacing the roofs, replacing the window, adjusting for modern energy standards. And that's costs that aren't very frequent, but they may pop up eventually. Once you've calculated your total costs, you can look at how you can spread them over each single month and deduct them from your rental income. So there is a way of doing that, but you need to sit down and have a think of all the items and like an itinerary.
Yeah, and I think particularly because landlords own for 15 to 25 years on average, that's a really important thing to do long term.
They will have to face all of these things eventually.
Yeah, OK. And Tim, your thoughts?
I think it's really important for anybody who's investing in property to get the right team around them. They need specialists. So, for example, the solicitors, they need solicitors who really understand buy-to-let landlords and investors. Same with accountants. I think critical issues around tax at the moment. If they haven't got the right tax advice, they can find themselves in quite a problem. So I think they need to surround themselves with the right people. Even things like letting agents. Some letting agents simply won't do very well for them and won't get perhaps the kind of tenant, the quality of tenants, or the regularity of replacements. Yeah,
so it's really thinking about your expert team.
Absolutely.
And appreciating this isn't really a DIY job, I think.
Exactly. It's a business and it needs to be treated as one.
Yeah, OK. And John, you're hugely experienced in this area because you get all the calls when things go wrong. So What are the common mistakes you think they make?
I think a lot of landlords actually forget that letting properties is a people business, and
That's
that
a
the
really good
tenants
point.
are ultimately your customers, and it's responding to your customers' concerns and needs. So things like reacting to requests for repairs quickly. It's things like remembering that actually for the period that you're letting the property, it's not your home. You may own the...
Can't pop in when you feel like it.
Yeah, so there's things like just remembering your tenants do have rights as well as responsibilities, and you have to respect those rights and stay on the right side of the law when it comes to things like inspections, when it comes to responding to repairs, when it comes to things particularly in HMO-style properties.
And that's where you're renting rooms, like a typical student let with
where you as the landlord might be responsible for the bills, and it's all inclusive, and a number of landlords get quite upset about how much energy, for example, their tenants are using. But once you've let that room on that basis, your tenant has a right to use the property as they wish within reason. And I think too many landlords forget that the tenants are customers. They need to be treated well and responded to well, and things have to be done properly. So if you do run into things like rent arrears or antisocial behaviour, you have to follow the proper steps in dealing with those issues and ultimately regaining your property if you have to. But there is a legal process and it has to be followed.
Okay, I think that's incredibly helpful advice. Thanks very much. So that's it for now from the Buy to Let show. Many thanks to my guests for all that information. I hope you found it useful. Don't forget you can see all of our programmes online to find out everything you need to know about Buy to Let. Thanks for now. See you next time. Here on the Buy to Let show, we aim to bring you all the information you need to run a successful Buy to Let. You can find more advice and help by following these links. And you can download our special ebook, which goes with the programme.